Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and yes, we are back for another suggestions video where we go through the Call of Dragon suggestions that have been submitted on the official Discord, and we tell you yay or nay, and then our reasons why. This should be fun as always. I've already actually read through a couple of these, so we will, again, but I stopped thinking, okay, yeah, let me go ahead and record this video because I'm already going through and I was kind of already excited about some I saw. So let's go ahead and start. As always, remember, if you enjoy the content, give us up. Appreciate you. So number one is we have submitted from Queen01. Ion, why every map after Season 1 looks like a dump? Why not make maps as big and good as Season 1 with behemoths and without resurgence limitations? First off, this is more of a question. I think that it is a suggestion. So again, format this into a suggestion, which is, okay, what's your suggestion? Why? What's the reasonings behind it? Any data or comparisons or information, right, supportive evidence you can provide that, right, goes towards it. And I would say probably just formatting your suggestion a bit too as well. Let's get to number 2. Big Flopsky. Hide combat text for other players when simple mode is enabled. The battles are difficult to navigate because they are exploding damage numbers covering the entire battlefield. Simple mode should only allow the damage buffs, debuffs done to the player's legion. So I think for something like this, what I think they're trying to get at is that when you have simple mode enabled, it reduces the legion or march space visuals that you see. And I think because of this, even though it'd be nice for the developers to come out and confirm, it feels as though they're doing a simple mode so that way they can hopefully reduce the lag is what my hope would be on why they're doing that. And if that's the case, it'd be nice if they could explain. It'd be nice if the developers themselves could explain why we get lag and where the lag is coming from. What can we do as players to improve that? And or what could they potentially do beyond that? But then, what would maybe be like, what are the pros and cons, right? What are the takeaways? What kind of sacrifices would you be making? Because it'd be curious to know if there's a way where they could almost completely eliminate it, but it would just be one tiny unit right in the march, and then would they have to reduce a lot more? To me, this feels like we need to kind of know what the root of it is before we can really make what I would say is fulfilling suggestions, right, that would really get relevant suggestions that would really meet what we're hoping to get out of it. For that, I'm just going to abstain. Bandit, we need more things to do that promote teamwork within the Alliance, especially when there isn't war. Give us a reason to log in and complete objectives together. Idea super fort similar to Caravan, allow R4 spawn into super fort at selectable difficulty level. They could have a rotating garrison and could be harder than a level 4 pass at the top difficulty. Okay, so I think if I'm looking at something that promotes teamwork, I'm not really going to look at something that has to do with rallies. Why? Because that's like a 2-step process. You set the rally, you join the rally, you wait for it to hit. That's not really promoting what I would say teamwork at the highest level. I think that really is more about open field. So being able to come up with something that allows for as many people to be involved and engaged in it and interact in that, where then they have to coordinate and organize and structure themselves, I think that's something that's going to promote and elicit a lot more teamwork for something like what you're suggesting. So I would probably say no for this. Let's go next. And I think an example of this one would be something like, a barbarian fort in Rise of Kingdoms, right? Where you have like this canyon, and then you have PvE units that are spread out, then you have buildings that you have to go and destroy as well. I think that's something that is a little bit more beneficial to promoting and to encouraging teamwork, right, than if you're kind of having to do a rally thing. Which isn't to say that we shouldn't have more things where you can practice doing rallies. It's just I'm not viewing that as the highest level of teamwork, if that's what we're referring to. We have Thai 1005. Allow players to migrate their accounts in geographical servers, like from Vietnam to a traditional Chinese server. This is because when people like me migrate from Vietnam to Hong Kong across 2 different geographical servers, they don't have access to Vietnam payment method anymore, so it affects actions like buying bundles. So I don't understand. I feel like this is just how this is intended to work. So you migrate from Vietnam to Hong Kong, but you don't have access to the Vietnam payment method. Okay. I would say this is like a personal thing, right? You should reach out to support for something like this. I don't know if this is something maybe they need to like change for everyone, unless this is like a case-by-case basis. I guess it would depend on how often this is happening. Okay. Let's go to Amon X. Wonder locations in the game spawn zone bosses, so wonders, daily that give rewards such as speed ups or the rare chance at a gold hero token. Would add something to do daily in the game and reward logging in more often. They can be similar to Acolytes, a mini behemoth, or dark chest guardians that require several legions to take down. Okay, I'm actually on board for this. This is a really good suggestion where you're trying to create more of a PvE type of coordination teamwork, kind of similar to that previous suggestion, but again, utilizing an area that is kind of being underutilized right now, which is wonders, right? For wonders, you're mainly just going, right, if you haven't clicked on them yet, because maybe you haven't defogged the areas in Home Kingdom, but basically you'll go to the wonder, you have to complete a couple tasks, which is usually just scouting out buildings that are nearby the wonder, and then you complete it and you get a reward for it. But now you're talking about like something like zone bosses. I think that's pretty creative. I think that's actually a really good idea to do something around the wonders. And if you're doing it daily, that could be cool as well. Because it almost kind of acts as guardians around shrines and altars, etc., that are in rock, right? But you're kind of using the wonders in that way. I actually think this is a really good idea. Hopefully they can do something like that or similar, but this is actually really good. I like it. Rambling. If zoomed out far enough on PC, you should be able to press the recall hotkey. It currently requires you to be zoomed in as far as rendering your marches. I'm actually for this. This makes sense. So, you just want to be able to like zoom out a little bit more where you're not zoomed in all the way, but you can see your marches moving and you want to be able to recall. Yeah, I don't understand why you'd have to be zoomed in all the way to do that. That makes sense to me. Karate, can we please change hero talents for free? I want to be able to experiment my heroes with different talents without using gems every single time. I mean, you guys already know I'm all for that. I think that's a change that should happen. I think you should be able to switch your talents as much as possible. I don't think that they should have any currency that you need to change it. And I also think you need to have presets that allow for you to do those things. But yeah, definitely not having to change, which I think some of the presets are already in there. Right? I'm not crazy on that. Do I have my game up? Let me see. Talents. Yeah, I do. I had to look at that for a sec. But yeah, I have 3 presets. Okay, good. And I was like, man, I thought we did. All right, let's go back here. How about smoking causes... You guys and your names. Just kill me. Remake the chest pits to look like barbarian keeps. Dude, I just talked about this. From Rise of Kingdoms or add similar something that's individuals. Yeah, we already talked about this. So yeah. Death's high score. Don't know what that means. Can we speak better English? Thank you. Memnarch. Let's just say more than just a subject line. Let's actually add some description. Thank you. Memnarch.exe. Allow PC players to use control left click to multi-select legions when zoomed out into icon mode and issue control groups to legions. I'm actually for this. I like this. This to me kind of, again, resembles more of that traditional RTS. I think this is something nice to be able to do. Promote the suggestion channel. There are over 70,000 people in Discord, and a suggestion needs 50 upvotes. Still, most good ideas barely reach this number because nobody knows this channel exists. I mean, yeah, would it be nice to maybe ping the channel or in the announcements just include something about it? Yeah, I could see that. Talent tree... Switch costs. Oh, yeah, no, we already talked about that. Due to not having extra rewards with tanking in Behemoths, more players are reluctant to play as tank and wanting to play DPS to attempt the top 5 most damaged out and capture Behemoths. Suggestion add. They're already adding something for defenders, I believe. Either they're working on this or it's already been added. I cannot remember at the moment, but I know this has been addressed for Behemoth tanking. Increase server capacity. Okay, what do you mean? Be more detailed. Give an example of, okay, this is what we estimate how many people are in our server. And this is, again, we'd like for the cap to be increased by this much for new kingdoms. And are you talking about new kingdoms? Are you talking about migration? Let's be specific. Are Arcturus 1307. The latest update removed gem prospecting from the player policies and moved them to economy tech research tree. The problem is that gem prospecting is now locked behind City Hall 21. This is a significantly more difficult barrier to achieve. I suggest that gem prospecting should be unlocked at City Hall 17 instead, because level 17 is the point at which server migration becomes available, and gem prospecting is an important tool necessary to help players to afford. Okay, I like this. This is actually articulated very well so far. The City Hall level 21 barrier is too high and is likely to cause teammates to become separated from each other during migration, especially in the first few seasons. I strongly recommend that this should be revised. Okay, this is articulated very well. It gives you what's happening, why they want, where they want the change to be, and why the change, and why they're advocating for the change. This is very logical. I don't know why anyone would downvote this. This makes a lot of sense. You can upvote for me. Make the marksman pets and artifacts work at long range. It currently doesn't work. So again, let's be more specific. Do you mean that you want the marksman, you want the pets and the artifacts to operate at long range if they have that seasonal talent selected? Which I'm imagining that's what they mean, but again, I'm not going to vote because you're not specific enough here. Articus 1307. The martial fortitude season talent currently says when your infantry or cavalry units launch a melee attack, please remove the melee requirement from the talent. It's a straight nerf to Spring Warden faction, and it isn't necessary in my opinion. There is no special treatment like this that applies to the units in Wilderberg or League of Order. Imagine if Arcane Torrent and Long Range Warfare only affected ground units. These players would be in uproar. For example, Wyvern Riders get the benefit from Long Range Warfare talent, and Celestials get the benefit of Arcane Torrent. So you want Martial Season talent, currently says when your infantry or cavalry units launch a melee attack. Yeah, because, okay, no, I get this. So I think for the most part, I'll vote yes for this. Unless there's some just obscene reason why you wouldn't want Spring Warden Cav to not have this applied to them, right, with the ranged. So, yeah, I mean, again, unless this is meant specifically. But if that's the case, then why would you have range cav? It feels like now we're kind of getting into this gray area where you're going to have to make all these adjustments because you just decided we're going to have one cavalry unit in one of the three factions that's just so happen going to be ranged. So I think I'm okay with this. But if someone has a case for not, then again, let me know in the comments. Waffles 9188. More garrison heroes. There are only 2 in the game right now, one of which is a legendary, so you probably won't even get it, and the other is a starter hero that you might not even use for garrison anyway. So just at least one elite garrison hero. I mean, you're just asking for more heroes. I think they're going to come out with more heroes in time. I'm going to abstain for that. Stop counter rallies from using stamina if the enemy disbands before impact. Oh, I see. Because then it hasn't hit. Okay. Well, I guess the question you need to ask is: Does the people who are setting the rally, does that cost stamina? If it does cost stamina, and that stamina is being used, and you're using stamina in a counter rally, and their stamina is not being returned to them when they disband the rally, then your stamina shouldn't be returned when they disband the rally if you're doing a counter rally, right? Like, I think that logic is sound based on the fact that unless they're not getting it, well, yeah, if they're not, so if someone sets a rally and the stamina is used, and you set a counter rally and your stamina is used, they disband their rally, but they do not get their stamina back, then you should not get your stamina back, right? If you're going to be consistent. Otherwise, if the game is going to come out with some kind of explanation or logic that says, well, if your counter rally isn't hitting their rally, then you should get, like, I can understand arguments on both sides, but as long as you're being consistent, right? So if stamina is not getting returned to the rally setters when they disband, then I'm okay with the stamina not getting returned if the counter rally doesn't hit the rally, right? As long as you're consistent on both ends, right? Because everyone's having stamina used, so no one's feeling cheated one way or the other. Maybe you should actually release. So I wish that was explained here in this. I wish they would have explained this by saying when you do a rally and you disband, stamina is returned or it's not returned. When you counter rally and it's done, this is what happens. This is the change we'd like to see. That's how I would have wrote this suggestion. Windcatcher. Maybe you should actually release event dates instead of just giving an update, an announcement there is going to be an event but no actual date. You release to new servers but not the first 100 servers that have been out longer. Please fix your game. I mean, I thought they did though for the anniversary event. Now I don't know about all events, but I know for the anniversary event they have something there in the news area for that icon in your city that tells you when the event is going to be starting for the range on that. Now, if you're just saying generally you'd like for that to happen for everything. So in this situation, when you're going to give a suggestion like this, you need to give examples. So you would say, for these particular events, there was no early warning or no heads-up notification. We only found out about it after it started. Compared to an event like this, the anniversary event, where you actually did a news posting and it says this is when it's going to start, we would just like for this to be done consistently going forward for all events. That's how I would write a suggestion like that. So, again, I understand what you're saying, but the suggestion isn't specific enough and it doesn't reference anything of material as evidence to then say, oh, well, now anyone can understand it, right? Suggestions need to be written as though no one has almost played the game before and you're explaining it to people for the first time. So because of that, I'm going to abstain. Emma, getting notified when the goblin merchant arrives in the city, mainly because I usually miss this. So I can't remember if the goblin merchant, if you get an individual notification for when the merchant arrives, but I'll vote yes on this because just in the event if you don't, because I'm logged in pretty much on my accounts almost all day, I just periodically check. But if you're saying you want a notification, regardless if you're in-game or outside of the game, or just a general one, that'd be nice. Then yeah, okay. I mean, I don't see that as being a problem. Make pet gifts useful. Right now, you get to level 2 to deploy the pet, and there's a 0 incentive to push per affection further. Perhaps they can get increased stat attributes or the chance to awaken, increase the rage talent, many options. Please redo pet affection so there's a reason to go beyond level 2. Okay, I mean, again, I haven't messed around with pets, but this seems specific enough, and with as many upvotes as it has, that it's probably the case. However, I feel bad voting on something that I'm not familiar with myself. So I'm going to abstain from this. But the logic seems sound. So if you also agree, make sure you go and vote here. Kimono, buff server capacity to hold 2 full alliances so a server can union with itself. I think the challenge is that we don't know enough yet about how the migration, how the activity statuses work for the kingdoms to really say this without a doubt, because there are some kingdoms that can hold 2 full alliances, right? It probably just comes down to them being a little bit weaker and just not as strong, so to speak. So I'd like just for this to have some more detail. Rips 2462. It shouldn't cost gems to reset. Okay, we already talked about that. Let us remind you again politely. No one wants to see a village system in a new season. I mean, this is right. I think maybe I'll do a suggestion on this eventually, but the fact is that there was nothing wrong with the previous village system, right? Where you'd flag out, and as long as a village was within the flag's territory, you connect a road, and then every single player in the alliance passively got that benefit. That's how it should be. Like I said, there was nothing wrong with the system before. There was no one who advocated for the system's change. And really the only thing the current system is doing is causing more headaches for management. And it's causing more frustrations on players, which what? Does that cause people to want to continue playing the game or to enjoy their day-to-day playing experience more? No, it does quite the opposite. So, yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I would word this differently. This is not the way you would word something to try and get something pushed through, but I understand where you're coming from, and I do agree with the general premise. Stinkifus, double or triple maximum street length. We can build over 100 more towers, but are already out of street or out of road length after half of a maximum tower is buildable. Now we have to constantly remove streets to go on the building. So I'm somewhat in favor of this. I've mentioned this for a while. I'm actually in favor with them increasing the road length. Now, I don't know if it needs to be double or triple for that matter, but I do think it would be a good example. I'm going to do a video on this too as well, where I reach out to some alliances and I ask them and I say, okay, well, let me know if you've built max, or you're basically like a flag or two away from building max. So then I can go in and look at how far have you been able to build to, and then what are some things you'd like to be able to build to, given your current situation and the kingdom situation, right? If you had some more road length. I'm generally in favor of them increasing it, but it's just, for me, I'd like to try and get that data firsthand so I can have a better understanding of, kind of where that's coming from, and then what is an actual more appropriate length to increase it to. Add coalition markers. I'm actually all for this. Like adding union markers. They have a dedicated union chat. I think doing more support and utilization for unions in game. I'm all for that. Alan Yor, the seasonal talent long range warfare increases archers' range to match with mages. Needs to increase pet range, artifact range as well. Also, it shouldn't work on behemoths, but only in PvP. I think this is specific enough. I think the challenge with... I understand pet range, because pet range should be an attachment. Pet range should just be the range at whatever your hero's range is, right? So, the artifacts range, to an extent, I actually agree here as well. I think that if you're increasing the range of the base march, which is the unit, the hero, then I believe that anything you're attaching onto that hero should have an increased range. So I think that logic makes sense, because otherwise all you're doing is just getting a DPS benefit, right? You're losing out on the pet and you're losing out on the artifact skill usage at that new increased range, right? Now, again, that's something the development team has to think about. And I would have recommended something that maybe they didn't think about, or I don't know if I say recommended, but it feels from the outside looking in that maybe this was something they didn't think about when you're going to add this in, is that how are pets... Now, let's be clear. If they specifically said in the talent, this only applies to the Legion, this does not apply to pets and artifacts, and then they gave a reasoning why, okay, I think now the community is a little bit more accepting of that. But because you didn't do that, again, this is the kind of reactionary situation that is just being created from that. But I do somewhat agree. I more so agree with this than I disagree, because of how the talent is set up and worded, and then the fact that you're losing out on 2/3 of resource, feature, material engagement from the March. Let's go to Falcon 805. Yeah, I mean, I think it should work. I just want to point this out. Oh, you mean PvE? Yeah, I just want to say I wish this would be worded. I wish that this person just went into a bit more detail here and wrote more. Falcon 805. Gotta be careful on how you say that. Let gold mana stones drop earlier in the season. We can get purple stones in the first weeks of a season, and then have to wait until Necro to get a terrible chance of gold mana stones, which are notoriously terrible and unpredictable. Okay. Part of me feels like I'd like to see a little bit more information and data here to explain this. So, but at the same time, I don't mess around a lot with the mana stone drops. So I'll abstain, but I mean, I think this makes sense, right? If as many people agree with that as possible. I just would have liked for the suggestion to be more detailed. Sandy Muffins. Disable placing forts in Zone 4, the last zone, like in Rock. Alliances just block off chokes and put them on top of mountains, making it impossible to advance. It destroys any form of meaningful warfare, and just promotes choke gaming. Yeah. I think I understand where they're coming from here. on. I just think maybe what they need to do is they just need to limit what can be built around chokes, so that way it's kind of similar to a bridge, right? You can't build something on a bridge; you have to build it on the opposite ends of it. I think choke points can be very similar, right? You can't you're not allowed to build certain things within the choke points. With the exception of a flag. Like, as long as you have one flag there, maybe that's all you can have is just one flag. This way, I think it promotes more open field and not really kind of like the objective or the buildable structural turtling. Because I think all that does is just limit the overall gameplay. I think it slows it down just way too much. And the fact is that we should want and be able to see a lot more kind of pure fluid open field PvP rather than it becoming like a hard turtle. Like, if you want a hard turtle at the end of the choke point, as an example, that's okay. But I think the middle of the choke point, just like in the middle of a bridge, that I just don't think is really the best way to do it. And you're very much seeing that at the T choke right now in the T1 season for Zone 4, where you're having, again, it's like it goes in and then it splits, right? So you're going this way and it goes that way and that way, like a T. And that's been like one of the heavy, like probably the heaviest choke point that we've seen so far. And you're able to build multiple things in between. So I think that's one way you can fix that, is just make the middle of a choke point where you can only have one flag there at any given time. And that, or as long as the area is filled out, right? You just can't double up flags within territory. Maybe you can't build keeps, can't build turrets, no barricades. It's just got to be pure PvP that's going to win it. But you can build those things at the end outside of the choke points, right? Similar to bridges. So yeah, I mean, I understand this. I don't know about the forts. I just think, again, I just don't think you should be able to place them, like I said, within or like right next to a choke. It's got to be a little spaced out. So, I mean, I would have voted for this. I just think it needed to be rewarded. Zenu, there should be more merit rewards, like getting rewarded if you reach 100k merits within the week. Yeah, so, this is something Infinity Kingdom did, where if you had a certain amount of PvP honor points that you accumulated from fighting, you got a certain buff, right? So you would get a certain buff and a certain tier level of buff. So if you had 100k merits, you'd be on like this level, this title level. If you had 200k merits, you'd be this title level. If you had 300k, 500k, 750, a million merits, you'd be on this title level. And then like some of the top players in the game would get additional buffs for having like the most merits or the most PvP that they've gained. Those are things. Or they got extra resources. Like maybe you got troop capacity increases, you got like some unit buffs, things like that. I mean, again, it is one way to think about it that can promote more PvP fighting. It would just have to be done, I just think it would have to be done appropriately, right? It can't be too overwhelming. They'd have to be small incremental buffs, but that is something that they could do. I just think we should have more of an example here on kind of what you're thinking of, not just, we just need to do this thing more. Even if the idea is in the right place, again, remember, try to be solution-driven where we're actually giving possible not results, but possible suggestions that can fix or solve what you're suggesting. Thor, LOL, add a feature for players to be able to switch between leading a hero and deputy hero in the middle of deployment in the map. Ooh, I don't know about this one. Without having to go back to the city, including the artifacts and pets that each hero currently acquire. This way, players will be able to switch between two sets of artifact buff skills. Pet skill buff. No, I mean, I'm going to go no here because I think you just really need to figure it out before you send outside of the city. Ricardo3117, add simple mode to PC. Dude, yeah. If this is just add simple mode to PC, 100%. Import new gatherers. Okay, no, we already done that. Scholar title should be able to promote members to R4. So an alliance can always have active R4s without needing R5 to be online. Yeah, I mean, I think what they just need is like a co-lead. They just need like a co-lead title. I understand what you're saying. I just don't know if it's the scholar title. I think it should just be like a co-lead title, right? So like a separate title outside of the officer titles would be great. Darkling arrow drop is 1 to 5. More information there. Sevegan, we have please change the animation when a behemoth gets deployed to the field. At least for all phone, iPad users, the moment the behemoth gets deployed, the whole screen is disabled until the behemoth animation is over. Mid-war, this has caused millions of troops getting dragged into the enemy ball and getting wiped. Make the animation so the main screen, especially the controlling of the marches, is not disabled. For example, a decent banner on the side of the screen, but not a full screen animation that disables all. Okay, I mean, this makes sense to me. I'll vote for this. Make Lucky Spins more free to play, like you guys can make it so that the player can get the hero guaranteed. The reason I just don't think you need to do this is that you just need to have it to where after a period of time, the heroes will go to the tavern. And that's probably going to be a suggestion that I'll eventually put in. Add more officer slots, make roles, and make roles with configurable permissions. This will help a lot more officers. I mean, I think 8 is enough. Simple mode for PC client. Even Meowers over here with it. I don't know about this. This needs to be a little bit more detailed on like what you mean by configurable permissions. And then, like I said, I just don't know if you need more than 8 at the moment. We need a new flying fish pet. Not that I'm against adding more. It's just, I don't know. I think I'm just going to abstain from that. We need a new flying fish. Gosh, a horse farming pet. You guys, I'm done. We need new unique pets that are not reskins. We want a kangaroo. I'm so done with you guys. Reduce the counterattack for Kanara. It's not good that magicians can't attack her because of her 1-to-1 exchange rate at best, huh? I don't know about that. My view is just remove counterattack damage completely. But Gabby, we need new unique pets that are not reskins. Okay, we already saw that. Enjoy the silence. Roads to villages are no longer needed. If the village is located on the territory, the bonus is valid for all members of the alliance. I mean, yeah, this is just returning to what the old system is. So yeah, okay. I think we're gonna stop there. I'm already at 30 plus minutes. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one. I love going through suggestions. I love giving you my thoughts and a little bit of my insight on why I'm voting or not voting or I'm abstaining from these. And again, I'd love to hear what you guys think, right? Any that we looked at that you really like. The Zone Bosses one for me, I think was the best one that I saw so far. I really liked that suggestion. And again, any that stand out, any that you want to give some more clarification on for maybe something I read that we just weren't understanding in that moment, and anything else, let me know in the comments down below. As always, until next time, I'll catch y'all later.